Oh, hey, Justine. How you doing?
Hi, good, Dean. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fantastic today. So I'm glad we're doing this on Zoom. It's the beauty of technology. We can do this from anywhere, and it's going to be obviously, hopefully, a really good, informative, and productive uh, for you as we go through a lot of the important steps that we're going to have to cover today, and then we go from there. So before I get started, though, Justine, is there any questions that you have or any comments around that something you need to share with me before I get started with my presentation here?
No, I mean, not really. We spoke yesterday, and I think, we're not sure what we want to do, and we're pretty happy where we are now. But obviously, like I said, we've had
Mhm.
a couple offers, and I'm not pleased with those.
Mhm.
So just curious, what you have to say, and if there is anything that you can do to help.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Just gonna go through that too. That's great. I love that we're doing this though, because at least it will give you a second opinion of value and strategy. And then again, by the end of this session, you'll either decide, hey, you know what, this is for me, I'm gonna do it, like most of our clients, or you may decide it's not the right thing. Or I may decide, hey, listen, if we can't agree on some of the terms here, then we can both walk away free, and then and then I may not take the listing. Is that fair?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. So just to confirm, I know you said you had a couple offers on there. So is there any offers that you have right now that are getting close to acceptance?
I mean, really, no. Like I said, we had, a couple of investors come through, and I'm pretty like firm on our price, especially, given that it hasn't been listed for all that long and we don't have to sell, but we would like to because
Mhm.
we're on the West Coast and it's just becoming a little bit too much to manage. Um, so no, we're just kind of sitting on them. We don't have any interest in accepting any of them at this point.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like they're like on kind of like on the lower side of the of like the
Yeah,
scale.
we got like a 915 and like a
Yeah.
905 and then something that started with an 8, which we're not even going to entertain at all.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense. I mean, when we sold 302, that one needed a ton of work, major
Right.
tenant issues in that one. And then speaking about the tenant for your property there, did they when is their actual like move out date here?
Yeah, so it's the last week of May.
The last week of May. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
make a note of that right here. Okay, so last week of May, and are they giving you any issues with showing the property right now?
No, honestly, she's been lovely. Like she's really flexible. She does work primarily from home, so she's able to make it work and give people
Perfect.
access.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, when I was there, I mean, it was kind of easy to show. You got the keys of the doorman. I went up there, and it was actually a pretty easy
Yeah.
way to get into the door. So Justine, that being said, the you have a couple months of time, obviously before the tenant leaves, and then you can choose there. Just remind me again, what is the intention or the motivation behind selling this unit?
Yeah, I mean, we've had it for quite a while. We lived in it when we lived in Jersey City and then moved out west and just kind of want to reinvest into other things here. Being a landlord across the country it's been fine, but it's just not
Hmm,
something that we really feel like we want to do for any longer. Want to
right.
just find something a little bit more local, maybe use it personally and buy, a second home or whatever.
Got you. Yeah. So it sounds like it's, up to this point, you've been able to manage it pretty nicely. It hasn't been causing so much stress in your life. And so, but you see other opportunities and you're like, hey, we're from afar. Why not just get this done and we can just move on with our lives, basically,
Right.
right? Okay, got it. So is it fair to say that just before I get started here, that we are like selling this unit? Like this is the direction that you've decided you would like to go?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, we've rented it for a long time and it's just
Okay.
kind of like the next step for us.
Beautiful. All right, cool. So what we're gonna do is I want to get like just a isolate the numbers for you. And let me ask you this question. Have you been following the market at all?
I mean, a little bit like more specifically, like what's happening in the building.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I know that there's nothing, I think there's one bedroom available in the building, but that's it.
Okay.
Um, So I do know, inventory to be low in that particular part of town. So
Hmm.
um yeah, like loosely following it, but really more specifically like what's
All
happening.
right, cool. Yeah, that's the best way to go. I mean, the good news is Mandalay is a pretty active building from a selling perspective. So when we're going to look into the building itself, I'm going to show you a couple of the actives and also the under contracts to see the future pricing, right? Because Justine, we really have three different forms of pricing, right? We can look at the solds, that's fine. Even my own unit that I just sold, obviously just 2 months ago, but that's in the past. And those contract dates were about a few months before, but we have to look at the future. Okay. Now, in your opinion, do you feel like the market's going up, staying steady, or going down?
I feel like it's going up. I feel like it's going up everywhere, especially in these like hot
Yeah.
markets like Jersey City.
Right. Which is why I think what separates a lot, like, my team and I from the rest of the pack is that they just look at like the old data, but they're not pricing it for the future. And we've gotten many properties sold just like we did 302 to obviously get the highest price possible to catch that wave. As you and I both agree, the market's moving up, correct? All right, cool. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and you're going to literally see, Justine, how I do it, how brokers do it and utilize the MLS system, the way that we obviously are getting all of our data, okay? And if you've seen any one of these comps, please let me know, and I'm happy to share it with you. So do you see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is everything that's active and under contract in, of course, the Mendeley. Notice the difference here. So what is one thing, Justine, that you notice in terms of a pattern so far?
That there's quite a few rentals.
Yeah, it's quite a few rentals, right? And what do you, and so as far as like the sales go, I mean, like you even said, there's that one bedroom, 1710, and the only one that's under contract that I want to really showcase here for the building is 2608. Did you ever
Right.
see this unit?
Not in person, but we did see it online and there's absolutely no pictures of it, so I don't really know um who that agent was, but
Okay. Yes. So this one, look at that, 95 days. So DOM means days on market.
okay.
Okay, Justine. So that's 95 days on market. Just given the fact that you have a tenant coming out of the property at the end of May, if we were on the market for 95 days plus an additional 60 to close, would that create any issue for you?
I mean it wouldn't be ideal,
Mhm.
but it wouldn't be like the end of the world, I guess. And she's super flexible, even given like if we needed her, wanted her, or would offer her another month to stay, like she may take us up on that. She's been there
All
for
right,
three
good.
years. So it wouldn't be preferable just so we could like keep her timeline where it is and not have to like play around with that.
Mhm.
But might be something to
Okay, great. So basically, yeah, I mean, you have options, which is fantastic to have. I mean, that's what you want to have in this process if you can have it. Now, based on being on penthouse level, right, the '08 line, which as we know faces north and having that beautiful city view, for
Mhm.
for what they listed it for, they probably negotiated, right? I mean, just based on how many days on the market that it was, but
Right.
that square footage and that view, how do you feel about this price?
I mean, I think it's probably reasonably accurate. I'd be curious like what the unit really looks like, if that held any weight in why
Okay,
maybe it
yeah.
sat
You
for
want
a
to
little
take a
bit
look at,
longer.
yeah. So have you seen the photos of the inside you're saying, or you haven't?
Yeah, there's really none. That's kind of why like I don't know what it really
Well,
looks like
yeah,
then.
we're going to take a look at it right now.
Yeah.
That way you can assess the condition, right? So, well, this
Yeah,
is the
like
building,
that's the
obviously.
lobby.
It is.
There's
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's limited photos that we do have, but even if we look at, let's say, how does that bathroom compare to yours, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you saw ours. We like that's just a stand-up shower. We did like redo the tub, and our
Hmm.
bathroom is completely renovated also.
Hmm.
And I think if I think they have two bathrooms, but we only have the one, and I think it's pretty valuable to have a bathtub
Sure.
for
And I would agree with that. This is
not
just a picture
ones.
of a washer dryer. Why realtors post this, I have no idea. That's something we probably wouldn't do for you, just so you know. Okay. Everyone knows what a washer dryer looks like. So that's fine. So we do have this one comparable here.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing you say is that you feel like relatively not knowing too much about the inside, but you do feel like, hey, this is something that is somewhat comparable because it is a two-bedroom and a two-bath, just like yours, right?
Yeah, well, it's a bit bigger than mine. So,
Okay.
um, but we perhaps have more updates because I don't really know what theirs looks like.
Yeah, and that's totally fine here. I mean, what I notice is that they have some photos virtually staged for what I don't know, but either way, now I'm going to transition now to the open market. Okay, like right in front of you, Justine. What I'm doing is I'm literally showing you what these 2-bedroom, 2-bath markets are for downtown Jersey City. So I just did a quick query on the market here. We can see how many listings do you see here active?
70, is that 75? Yeah, 75.
75, right? So 75 that we actually have accurate, okay, or active rather, okay. And how many square feet is your unit?
We're like just under 1,000. I think it's 975.
Oh, that's right, because you're like the 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, fair enough. So with that said, what you see here, right, is there's a lot of inventory for different prices in all different range, and you have it up on the market for how much?
We're 995.
So 995, right? And you've gotten a couple of lowball bids, but nothing like kind of like in that range. But just seeing how this inventory looks like right now, right? And just how much we do have a higher supply rate, especially like in like this one on Granted, it doesn't have a doorman, things like that. But if I query this down and I go to even further, I'm going to say, okay, here, let me look at what are the doorman buildings looking like. There's only actually 44 of doorman buildings. And so this is more of a comparison, because would you agree, Justine, that really that the doorman experience in these kind of full amenity buildings really should be compared as like a like kind?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, especially because downtown Jersey City is so big, right? Like you have Hamilton Park versus Newport, right? Like,
Yeah. So look at that, and look at the difference between the doorman buildings and how the price just changed quite drastically. So the majority of 07302, you have all these properties in the market that you can choose from. But if you're a doorman full amenity buyer, this is what you have access to.
right.
And look at that. There's nothing between 900 to 1,080,000. So given this data, Justine, that we both looked at, where would you want to price it in order to attract 100% of the buyer pool that's available?
I mean, I feel like we're probably priced like kind of where we need to be. Like if we're like looking at, between like First Street, which I know that building and they don't have views or anything like that. And then that 1,080,000, like I think we're probably priced where we should be.
So like the 995 number is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. I mean, so just given this data and just seeing what actually homes are actually selling for today, I am going to recommend a price of getting right in that middle point to give you the best traction possible. Because Justine, have you ever been involved in like a multiple bid situation?
No.
Okay, you haven't. Interesting. Okay. Would you like to be involved in that as a seller?
I mean, if we're in this scenario, yeah, sure, that
Sure.
that would be
Right.
great. Yeah.
And so we have two different strategies, right? We can do the testing of the market price, or we can do let's do our best to get multiple offers. It's never a guarantee, but it's the best way possible for you, Justine, to have all of the leverage in this process. Now, you having all the leverage in this process to pick the best offers, what do you feel like that would do, obviously, to the price?
I mean, I guess would drive the price up. So would you like recommend like, I mean, somewhere in the middle, like what, like 950?
950, 965, just in that little pocket right there. Make it really presentable in there. And of course, we're going to take, and I'll show you a little bit about what we do differently than some of these other agents. But basically, price-wise, I think that's where we could see ourselves being. Would that be something that you'd be okay with at least testing out first, seeing what happens, and then we hit the ground running?
I mean, potentially.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So
What does that look like testing it out? Like, what do you mean by?
Oh, I just mean that we're going to obviously go out, we're going to come into the market in that middle ground, put it out there because there's nothing available in that $200,000 gap that you see on price. So we're going to test it out in that range for what your property has to offer, let the market come to you, and then you make the decision about which one you would like to pick. All right.
Okay.
So that's great. So we did talk about the numbers. You can review my track record later. That's fine. That's not a big deal. We can look at that. I'll send this all to you, obviously, after this. So we did establish the value, right? We kind of looked at where do we go from here. and there's always two ways that we can increase the value, Justine, right? And this is what I was proposing, right? We list below the available options that we believe are available, and we don't want to go above that because obviously time is not going to be on your side. Is that fair?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So we have that, a little bit about my team, Justine. So we're going into obviously the process now. And so Teddy's our listing partner. She does everything on the back end, from scheduling the photos, working with the tenant on the showing schedule, making sure Zillow is updated, everything that you would expect the agent to do on the back end to get things done the right way. And then of course we have our partner. So Justine, when you go into or whenever you've inquired on, let's say, Zillow, Realtor.com, right? Have you always spoken to like the listing agent or someone on their team, maybe?
Um, I mean, I guess, yeah, something like that. I guess
Okay.
the listing agent, I mean, we haven't bought in a couple of years, so we really haven't been exploring this.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, but basically, yeah. So Justine, John, Segundo, and Anissa, they're all available for every single listing that the Dean Clark Group has to take on those said leads that come in on the property that inquire on 22nd Street, 2311, and they want to see a showing. Because the first goal and target, Justine, that we found is that you get too many missed opportunities that don't get actually called upon to go and actually take a look at your specific unit.
Mm,
So not having it, so having a team versus it being an individual, can you see the difference in terms of driving that traffic forward to your unit?
sure, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So now we talked about, okay, now we're getting to like the marketing side of it. Now, based on, these are actual photos of some of our higher end properties that we would do, obviously for you. Okay, Justine. So I'm assuming you would expect professional photography, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think our pictures are pretty good, but I
Yeah,
think they could be better. So, yeah.
sure. Yeah, obviously. And we're going to obviously, this is what we do for the photography professionally. We also do 3D mapping tours as well from a marketing perspective. And let me ask you this question, Justine. Where do you feel like your buyer is going to come from?
I mean, I don't know. I know that there's a lot of people like coming from Manhattan. There's also like a lot of like renters who are looking to buy now. So I don't know, maybe
Okay.
locally or New York City, I guess.
Yeah. So what we found was, and through our research, is that a majority of our clientele is going to come from Manhattan, Brooklyn, a lot of times as well. Jersey City is it's a hotbed for all Brooklynites coming over the river, right? And so what we did during COVID, did you have any turnover during COVID? Like in terms of getting a new tenant or anything for this unit?
No, actually, my tenant that's here now with us now, she came in like right before COVID happened.
Ah, okay, gotcha. So you didn't
Yeah.
have any turnover. So you were
No.
lucky enough to weather that storm and not even go through that with the rest of the market. So we had to get creative because if you remember, or maybe not, the market went down 10 to 15%, whereas everywhere else in the country was blowing up. So we got creative about how are we going to source our buyers and how are we going to get buyers to our listings, more than we are going to be anywhere else. And so we have a proprietary list that of 28,000 contacts of email addresses from Douglas Elliman, Halstead, Corcoran, you name it, that are all getting the buyers from there and then bringing it over to our properties here. Okay. So, and obviously we're going to get you on every single website possible. I'm assuming obviously Zillow because you're on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you also know, Justine, that Zillow also owns Street Easy Manhattan and also Trulia?
I knew that there was a connection with Trulia because obviously, like when you list on Zillow, it
Yeah.
populates to Trulia, right?
Yeah.
So,
So the reason I bring that up is because again, Straight Easy is solely focused on being in Manhattan. So we do a lot of our target marketing with Zillow because then it will get syndicated properly to everywhere else we have to do. And we're obviously premier agents on Zillow, which really helps our sellers get to the next level. Okay. And so I want to show this to you, Justine. It's a property that we actually had. Okay. This is actually on the market also for sale by owner not too long ago. And they ended up listing with us because obviously they saw the difference and they wanted to get the property sold for the most amount of money. And so, but I want to show you this. Have you ever noticed the days on Zillow and the number of saves?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So one day on Zillow and this having 18 saves, what do you think that would tell you about the interest
That
level?
there's a lot of people interested.
A lot of people interest, right? So when we list the property and we're seeing that, this is like a really good real-time gauge to just get you to just understand, okay, this is where we're going to probably get an offer or two on. Okay. And so we do a lot of work on that, but you can see this yourself, because if we're not going to get an offer, a lot of times they're not going to be, getting a lot of saves on that as well. All right. And Justine, so we have leading indicators of saleability. This is determining the levels of real interest that we have in the property. All right. Number of saves we definitely talked about, number of showing requests that come in, but then also the prices of those offers that are coming in right now, based on just your own, like, posting it yourself, talking to the building about it. Do you feel like you kind of maxed out where you're at, just from like an effort perspective?
I mean, I guess I think at this point, like, it's kind of like, well, where do we go from here? Like, there's like, I have a couple of offers, they're not good. Now what? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
No, for sure. For sure. So I think well, speaking about that, let me just address that, right? You have a couple offers, right, that you did get on your own, but that happens across the board for a lot of these premier properties that we have in Jersey City, right? If you post anything, there's always going to be some bottom feeders that are going to want to come in there, make an offer, and then obviously not get there. But the real question is, are we leaving any money on the table by not being professionally listed and marketed to get the exposure that you're looking for? Okay. And that's what we're doing right here. And the last thing I wanted to show you is this listing plan of action. Okay. Would you agree, Justine, that if an agent doesn't have a plan of action to sell your property on the listing side, that it's probably not the best approach?
well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that too, which is exactly why we take this very seriously. And we have a step-by-step process that Teddy and I are using to maximize every single penny that we possibly can get from the marketplace. The first one is obviously, developing a list of features. We're not going to go through this right now, but I wanted to show you this, that we have a complete plan of action ready to go to get you as a seller top dollar. Okay. Now, if you ever just had a question about, hey, where are we at in the next step? If you choose to work with us, okay, is picking a listing price. Then we go to the photos. This is a step-by-step guide with where we're at, just a high-level view on what that looks like. I mean, Justine, obviously, have you ever felt like you were a little lost maybe in the process when it came to either buying or selling or doing something real estate wise?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this helps a lot of our clients out with a lot of that, just kind of high level understanding of like, hey, what's next in the process? What is Dean and the Dean Clark Group doing to obviously sell my property? So that's what we do there. If you need any resources, again, you're in California, right? We're over here in New Jersey. We have every single resource you could potentially imagine that we need to do. And if we need to stage, if something happens, we're not sold by the time that tenant moves out, and we got to refurbish that a little bit, maybe get it repainted, cleaned out, staged up. We can obviously we have those services at your disposal as well. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And you can read our reviews obviously here, Justine. So look, I think that based on what we just had discussed on this, I think this is the right fit, given that we've isolated the price. And what I'll do is, after this call, Justine, I'm going to send you an agreement, a proposal. Okay. If everything looks good, you can click the buttons and sign away. Then we'll be engaged as your agents, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, yeah, I think like, we'll obviously talk about it, like, as far as price is concerned, and then obviously you have a commission. So like, what does that look like as far as like your commission and all that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So commission 6%. And obviously we're cooperating with another broker that would bring a buyer by.
Right, yeah, because I mean, the reason that we decided to go for sale by owner was obviously just to protect the money in our pocket. So like, recognizing that if any agents had a buyer, like, happy to give them 2%, call it a day. But really looking to get as much as possible, where coming down to 960, I see where you're going with that, and the hope of getting more offers, and that would be great if that's the case. But if it doesn't happen and then I'm paying out 6%, like what does that look like for me then, cash flow wise?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question, by the way, Justine. And so let me just remind me again, you said this is the first time you're trying to sell a property, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So here's the great news about working with a real estate agent like myself, who's obviously done a lot of business in the building and obviously other areas, is that we don't get paid until the closing, right? We're taking all the risk up front to pay for the photos, if we got to stage it, got to repay, we're doing all of that up front to cover those expenses, and then we get reimbursed at the closing table. But if we don't negotiate you the highest net price possible, Justine, guess what? Do you have to pay us? You don't. And there's no commission that's obviously due. So why don't we do this, right? Because it seems like we're on the same page about the price, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we'll talk
Yeah.
about it a little bit further, but I think that makes sense.
For sure. And do you believe, just based on what my team does and everything else that we do to get a property sold, that we are obviously agents that you would like to see yourself work with?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So the only thing we really need to do at this point is simply get an engagement letter signed, and then that way we can go to work and you guys can do whatever you need to do in California, and we'll be your full service boots on the ground here in New Jersey. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay, great. I'll have Teddy send it over to you for signature, and we'll go from there.